Paddy the Baddy Pimblett burst onto the UK fight scene with his floppy haircut, wild personality, and an even wilder fighting style. But somewhere along the way, that young, scrappy showman evolved into a legitimate UFC lightweight contender, capped off by a stunning TKO victory over Michael Chandler at UFC 314.
It's over. There it is, the king of the North! Paddy Pimblett! Welcome to the land of the elite!
So, what makes Pimblett stand out in a division full of killers? Beyond the haircut and the scouse bravado, it's his killer instinct, an uncanny ability to recognize vulnerability, escalate pressure, and finish fights the second an opportunity presents itself. This is the intangible that separates entertainers from finishers. While some fighters coast when they sense a momentum shift, Pimblett pounces.
Oh, this is tight. And the elbow is where it's going to be done. There it is, it's done.
Despite not being the most technically refined striker or the most defensively sound, Pimblett makes up for it with his sheer aggression, physical durability, and an unshakable belief in his own toughness. His infamous saying,
"I'm a scouser. We don't get knocked out,"
might not be literally true, but believing it allows him to fight like it is. This mindset empowers him to dive into chaos, embrace risk, and dictate pace. That kind of pressure has a psychological effect. Opponents stop initiating and start reacting. And in MMA, reactive fighters are vulnerable fighters. This works because pressure fighters like Paddy force their opponents out of rhythm. Paddy's killer instinct shows up when fights reach those high-stakes moments. Right when the energy shifts and vulnerability flashes across his opponent's body language, that's when he flips the switch. He might be getting hit clean in the early round,
But clearly the Vendramini corner.
Oh! Huge left for Vendramini!
but give him a glimpse of fatigue or hesitation from his opponent, and he turns the tables in a heartbeat. In his UFC debut, he weathered bombs from Vendramini, stayed calm, then exploded with offense when the opportunity arose. He uses tools like flying knees to off-balance opponents, creating chaos and seizing control. Flashy attacks like these are more about timing than raw speed. They're designed to disrupt an opponent's forward momentum or balance, and they're perfect for halting a charge or punishing overcommitted strikers. And once the chaos starts, Paddy thrives. Years of positional drilling, countless hours grappling from bad positions, and the mental acceptance that he will get hit all feed into a composed, dangerous fighter who becomes more aware when things get wild. Fighters like Pimblett who train under chaos by simulating fights gone wrong develop reactions instead of panic, and they build offense out of the adversity. While Paddy's striking is flashy, his real superpower is on the mat. Grappling is where he's most confident, creative, and dangerous. One of his go-to takedown sequences involves a high crotch lift to an outside trip. This works particularly well for longer fighters like Pimblett since it uses elevation to destabilize the opponent. Then, they sweep out the legs before the opponent can sprawl. He also has serviceable chain wrestling, flowing between single legs, doubles, and trips without hesitation. This causes the opponent to constantly switch defenses, wearing them down mentally and physically. Against Keen Green, Paddy turned defense into offense by locking up a tight arm-in guillotine after baiting a takedown. Crucially, he sprawled first before jumping to guard. This is important because sprawling loads your hips and maximizes choke pressure. Jumping guard without it often turns a submission into a scramble. Even after Green escaped the guillotine, Paddy immediately transitioned into a triangle choke, then into an armbar. The triangle to armbar transition is bread and butter offensive guard play. But to do it under the bright lights of the UFC, and in a high-profile showing against King Green, the ability to go from one threat to another without resetting. In Cage Warriors, he once used a Kimura grip to reverse a takedown. Then, he leapt into a fence-assisted flying triangle, finishing with his signature triangle armbar combo. This works because Kimura control can off-balance opponents and open reversals. Using the fence to elevate for a flying triangle is high-risk, high-reward creativity. Paddy's aggression can be his greatest weapon, and his biggest vulnerability. He often neglects basic striking defense. Rather than using head movement or structured footwork,
You know, it wasn't as clean as I like, but are you not entertained?
he leans on forward pressure and his chin. That's why he eats clean shots, especially left hooks during exchanges. Fighters like Paddy who exit exchanges with their chin up and their hands down are always vulnerable to counters. Left hooks, in particular, land when you pull straight back without angling off. And while Scousers don't get knocked out is a fun rallying cry, every chin eventually cracks. And that's because momentum fighters, like the baddie, rely on confidence. When that slips, the holes in their fundamentals are exposed, especially against technical, disciplined opposition. Pimblett's tendency to chase finishes rather than set them up could backfire against top-tier opponents who are great at baiting over aggression. Paddy's best chance against these types? Use distance weapons like body kicks and counters, tools he already has, but needs to apply with more control. Paddy Pimblett has turned raw talent into real potential. Not just with improved skills, but with physical development and insane conditioning. His transformation from Cage Warriors to UFC Contender is visible not just in his highlight reels, but in his body and gas tank. And that conditioning can really come into play. A stronger core and lower body improve takedown offense, scrambling, and striking durability. All pillars of Pimblett's game. He's now bigger and stronger than most of the lightweight division. The big question is now, can Paddy refine his game without losing his edge? Because chaos, charisma, and killer instinct might get him to the dance, but tightening the fundamentals is what's going to keep him there. If he continues improving and evolving as he matures, that will be his biggest advantage. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been Coby McKinley, wishing you happy training.
There's a stigma in this world that men can't talk. Listen, if you're a man and you've got weight on your shoulders, please speak to someone. Speak to anyone. So please, let's get rid of this stigma and men start talking.